Cool, man. So we're here with Seamus at Muse in Belgravia. We've been friends for a while, haven't we now? And been chatting quite a lot about interesting food and what we've been doing. Can you just tell the guys what Muse is all about and about the food just in general?
Yeah, so we're based in Belgravia. This is what we probably call Tom's flagship restaurant in the whole world. Obviously, it's the only one in the UK. And basically, the main premise is kind of, we take kind of inspiration from quite a lot of Tom's past, his history, his childhood, kind of tweak little stories behind that and dishes behind that, really. It's a full tasting menu restaurant. Yeah, and the whole kind of, the menu is kind of like one big story almost, yeah.
Yeah, so I ate here about, I think, 6 months ago, and it's definitely a very seasonal menu, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's like changing all the time, and like you're always sort of like always cooking in the background and just developing stuff. Like what I noticed was the menu is like a story, isn't it? It's not just like there's a fish course.
No. It's just to kind of give something a little bit different, and without it being too kind of cheesy, we wanted to kind of just try and do something slightly different and kind of make it more theatrical. You know, the whole thing is theatrical because we've got the open kitchens, so it all kind of intertwines into that almost, where it's not just the food, it's kind of the whole experience we want everyone to enjoy.
Yeah, so obviously the place is called Muse, which is a take on the fact that it's in a mews, M-E-W-S, which is like actually, because of that, you're kind of sort of restricted to just 2 rooms, one on top of each other, so you're kind of like, as a guest, you're in the kitchen.
Yeah, basically.
As beautiful as the decor is, you're in the kitchen as well. So it's quite immersive in that way as well.
Yeah, it is very immersive. You know, that's one of the key things to the restaurant, is having that customer interaction, which you wouldn't usually get in other restaurants, and they get to see what we're doing too, which is like always good fun, I think.
Yeah, and you mentioned like theatrical, but I think when people think theatrical, they mean like loads of like liquid nitrogen and stuff like that. But what you mean is it's more like this sort of like warm, being part of the story sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly, and people love seeing like chefs just at work in general. It's quite hypnotic almost, isn't it?
Well, it's not screaming and shouting so much these days, is it?
No.
Not always.
No, not always.
So, essentially, what we're here to do today is like we're going to taste a couple of dishes, aren't we?
Yeah.
So, like obviously, like we said before, it's a super seasonal menu.
Yeah.
So we could just have a little chat about what those dishes are going to be.
Yeah. So the first one is going to be our trio of snacks. So we always do a trio of snacks throughout the year. Currently, it's lobster. And actually this is inspired by Tom's kind of travels to Japan. He's just recently opened a restaurant there. So all the elements are kind of inspired by Japan, and we're using lobster. So the first one is like a chawanmushi, using like a nice like kind of lobster bisque stock, and we just set that like really lightly with eggs, some preserved set mushrooms on top of that, and some shiso. Then the other one is a tempura claw with a yuzu mayonnaise, and some of that yuzu sashimi that you've got. And then finally we've got a lobster okonomiyaki.
Oh, kind of the like little pancake. It's not really a pancake, is it? Like,
it's kind of like, well, our one is like
but not an omelette.
More like
omelette
an omelette
thickness and texture.
It's got like the dashi in there, so it's kind of like sets almost. Ours is like a very small version, so it's not like it.
Is it like a one bite? Or
it's one bite.
Because when you go have okonomiyaki in Japan, they're like a massive meal. Also, there's like 2 different kinds. You've got one in Hiroshima that's like a pile of noodles.
Yeah, I mean, they're just wild. They're like... But yeah, obviously ours is a little bit smaller.
A little bit more refined.
Yeah, a little
bit. We can say,
And then the second dish is our fish dish, which is pollock. We've lightly baked it. It's got a pollock mousse on top, so with like the tail piece, which we don't use, we turn that into a mousse on top of there, and then potato scales on top of that as well, kind of like resembling almost like the scales of the fish, which is kind of like a classic French kind of technique that used to get used. So then you've got that, you've got a sauce made from, it's like a dashi beurre blanc. So basically, kind of like a classic beurre blanc, which is reduced white wine and then lots of butter. But we also add dashi to it, which kind of lightens the whole thing. And it's not as buttery as your traditional beurre blanc, and it gives that nice umami
not too
feel.
fishy like a dashi either.
Exactly, yeah. It's quite light. And then we add fermented dulse to that, as well as Alexander vinegar, which is like a foraged plant, and it has a quite bitter taste to it. So when you make a vinegar from that, it's quite bitter, but it kind of works really well with that butter sauce.
Okay, because of the richness.
Yeah, and then there's also like other little potato elements on there as well.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It's interesting because obviously we're in the heart of London. I mean, if you look outside, it's just all beautiful old houses. But it is the international sort of embassy district as well. So
here, isn't it?
It is a super international place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you get like a lot of international people coming, or is it mostly British? Or?
Yeah, I mean, there is a big mix. Yeah.
Because you've got the people who want to try Tom's food, and and they want to have obviously it's got a star, so you're obviously what's this all about? So you've got this sort of foodie crowd, haven't you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I'd say majority of people come here for like special occasions, birthdays, anniversaries.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It does feel like a treat.
Yeah.
I'll say that for sure.
It's not somewhere you're going to go every day.
Yeah, but that's nice. It feels like a special place in a special location.
Yeah.
This part of London, it just feels like
it's really off the beaten track, as it were. But like where we are, I think is really.
You wouldn't walk down here
like
on the way shopping or something.
Before I started working, I didn't really know this area that well. Yeah, and it's absolutely stunning. Like these like rows of Muse houses are like idyllic. It doesn't feel like you're in London.
And it's really quiet, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can walk around or ride a bicycle.
Can't see anyone for like 10 minutes. It's crazy. And you've got Victoria just like 5-10 minutes away, and it's just mad there.
You could walk to Buckingham Palace relatively quickly as well, can't you?
Yeah, it's around the corner,
Yeah. So like, actually, very British location, but actually also a very international location, and you could say that the food is kind of like representative of that as well.
Obviously, like we use British ingredients, of course, but we're not adverse to using, obviously, like the likes of yourself, like, because you can't beat like Japanese seaweeds and stuff and all their kind of soy products and stuff like that. It's just, you can't beat that. So we're not adverse to, we're not saying we're only using British. We want to use as much British as possible, but enhanced with other cultures. And,
This is the trap with British cuisine, because British cuisine's always been, for 400 years, international cuisine, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Forever. So where do you draw the line?
Britain is such a melting pot, isn't it? You know? Especially in like the likes of London, the amount of places you can eat in any cuisine in the world in London, which makes, for me, makes it so special. And you can only be influenced by that sort of thing, I think. Yeah, you can. I mean, as a northerner, people just don't leave the M25, because everything's here. Yeah, exactly. So like if you want to try a good representation of Italian cuisine, there will be something in London that is really good that you can try that. So you can try and travel the world within this sort of like one place, and I agree,
that allows you to sort of like get quite a good view of what's going on, and so many good restaurants as well. I mean, I would say don't want to set my reputation on this, but I would say 50% of all the restaurants that you want to visit are going to be in London. Yeah, for the UK. For the UK, yeah, probably. But obviously, the rest of the UK is big. Is big, but I mean, they're doing great things too. It's not just London. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. They're doing 50%. Yeah. Remind me, how did we meet? Because I forgot. I don't know. I think I just reached out to you, via Instagram, and then you popped down. Oh, do you know what? I was chatting to Tom ages ago on the phone, and originally on Instagram we chatted about something or other, and then he was talking about a dish, and he was thinking about doing some development, so he says, can I give you a chat? And then I think after that me and you started conversating about drilling down into dishes, and then we came in and did a tasting and just doing a little bit of development and stuff like that. That was right at the start of when we opened, actually. So we've been using you since we opened, which is great. When did you open again? January 2020. Lovely. So perfect timing, but I think really the restaurants who opened like end of 2019, early 2020 and are still here, you're going to be fine from now on.
we've been lucky. We have been lucky. You know, obviously last year was like our first full complete year, like from January to December. So it's been, yeah, obviously the first couple of years weren't ideal, but now we're kind of past the hurdle, hopefully, and yeah, everything's going pretty good so far. So
yeah, and hopefully that should unlock a little bit more.
Yeah.
As things sort of calm down in the world, and
I hope so,
more international people start visiting London again.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. So we've chatted about some of the dishes that we're going to be looking at, and you know, you've picked a couple, and obviously this menu is changing all the time. But so obviously Tom's got his restaurant in Tokyo, and he's got this international viewpoint. With it being a British restaurant, when you look at putting Japanese ingredients in the menu, is it you want to sort of say that this is a Japanese dish, or do you want to say that actually this is our dish, it's a British dish, but it's just enhanced by those flavours?
More, obviously that the lobster dish is basically kind of like a homage to Japan, so we're not like, that is clearly showing Japanese ingredients and Japanese techniques. But yeah, most of the time when we are using the Japanese ingredients, we're subtly doing it, like, you know, like the beurre blanc using the dashi, kind of like that. Just kind of subtle pieces. And it really is, I suppose, just more of a sort of like to elevate rather than to sort of highlight those things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. With obviously like some of the ingredients you get in Japan, they're like the soy, the kombus, and the kind of katsubushis. We don't highlight that on the menu all the time, as it were. Yeah, but underneath it all, you're talking about like having the combo in there, but really it's not the highlight, but it's actually just that building layers of flavour, basically.
Yeah, so that there's a saying in Japanese called kakushiaji, which is like hidden flavour, but what it means is like don't hide the flavour. What it means is like build up the base layers, and then, you know, that will be a support for the main ingredient. Which is bit, I think, big thing of what, from when I've tried your food, that's what in my mind that the Japanese ingredients, that's what they do. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally agree with that. There's definitely, and it's not just us, you know, there's definitely like, I'm seeing Japanese ingredients in, you know, like you say, not always is it shown as a headline thing, but I kind of know that it's in there. What do you think is sort of driving fine dining in Britain to sort of like, to go looking for these ingredients? You know, the thing with Japan is obviously they care so much about their products, which is, I think they're like the best in the world at kind of honing their skills at one thing, and like their love for their produce it shows. So as chefs, you want to kind of use the best ingredients in the world, and they are at the forefront of many of that. There's like a subtlety to a lot of the stuff as well. Like when you make a dashi, it's, you know, it's not like a classic French sauce where it's like super intense. It just has that kind of lightness, as it were. Yeah. And also when you're doing like a tasting menu restaurant, you want to have a lightness of touch, because the last thing you want is for people to be leaving the restaurant completely stuffed and not able to move. So having that kind of lightness, I think, helps. Yeah, some of the best tasting menus I've had have had like high notes, low notes, and I don't mean low as in bad. I mean you know, they've had that sort of like pacing where you've got time to have a bit of a refresher, or
of course,
you know, you don't, your breads that you do here is amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's Tom's baby. If you have it, it's intense, I could eat it all, like, but then you couldn't eat anything else. So you do have to have something heavy like that, but then something light, and just keep that rhythm going. I never understand how people can have extra bread. Because it is bloody good. Yeah. It's good, but it's intense. It'll kill you. Yeah, totally. Especially down the line when you're doing petit fours and things like that. Of course, towards the end. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. My main focus at the moment is obviously Muse, and Tom has someone else where he can kind of he helps with all his other ventures. Okay. Yeah, so he's Sam. He's like the development chef here as well. So he has that input, and then he also goes to the likes of Japan and Doha and all Jakarta and all of the other Tom's ventures. Yeah. So like the Muse is kind of like the heart of Tom Aikens' operation, I guess. It's what like the heart of the representation, and then, you know, that's taken in part to other parts of the world, and then that can be made into these other restaurants. But the heart and soul of this is his baby. This is his flag. This is where he spends most of his time. He's here most services, and he obviously when he goes abroad, I take control of everything. But this is his kind of
baby, as it were.
Yeah. We were chatting about the first dish we're going to eat, which is the little starters, the little tasting things. What sort of Japanese ingredients in general are we putting in these dishes?
So the lobster tempura, it's wrapped. The lobster claw is wrapped in a shiso leaf, and then we're doing a yuzu mayonnaise with it alongside it, which has obviously.
Is it fresh yuzu?
Yeah, we use grated fresh yuzu at the end and just yuzu juice, and then that yuzu sashimi.
Oh, it's the Yawataya one with the lovely little tin.
That little yellow.
That's
tin.
quite good with tempura actually, because really you've got the chili, but then you've got
that
all the sort of like
heat, full,
which goes great with seafood, especially fried.
And then the okonomiyaki. Obviously, we make a dashi with that, so we use the kombu and the katsubushi, and we put katsubushi through the actual mix as well. The pickled ginger chopped through it as well, and then the okonomiyaki sauce.
Is it soy based? Rice vinegar?
We use soy in there.
Yeah, great. I'm looking forward to that one.
And we do like a furikake on top of it, so brushed nori seaweed, which has been dried out, crispy shallots and stuff like that.
Oh, great! So it's like quite a layered experience.
Yeah, that one is definitely for sure.
So in the pollock, what sort of like Japanese ingredients we got going off in that one?
So a different type of dashi, but using that classic, just like the kombu first, followed by the katsubushi. We strain it off and we finish it off with your white soy. Okay. As well as rice vinegar and mirin, and then also we've got braised kombu on there. So
would you eat the actual kombu?
Yeah. So we've got like discs of braised kombu, which we just we kind of cook it overnight in soy, mirin, a little bit of glucose, and then we punch that out and we chop all the trim up and we put that through our what's called a pomme dauphine, which is kind of like it's a deep fried choux pastry with potato folded through it. So we've got that chopped kombu through there as well, and some slow cooked leeks through there as well.
Does that give it sort of like that sort of sea umami? It doesn't taste like fish, but
it just kind of gives that little bit of extra umami through there. We also do some crushed ratte potatoes on there, charlotte potatoes, sorry, and we cook that in a kind of seaweed stock. So a bit of wakame, a bit of kombu, a little bit of the kombu dashi powder as well, and butter, and then we cook the potatoes in there. Peel them, crush them, and then use that cooking liquor just to kind of wet it a little bit.
Wow, so there's actually quite a lot of Japanese ingredients in that one, but really when you eat it, you're going to be thinking pollock potatoes, aren't you?
And seaweed.
And then seaweed.
There's also English seaweed.
But taste of the sea, really, aren't you? You're not thinking, this is full of Japanese ingredients.
Yeah.
You're thinking, this is an amazing piece of pollock, it tastes like the sea.
Yeah.
And that's what you kind of...
Yeah, for sure.
I guess it's fish and chips, isn't it?
It's our interpretation, as it were, that kind of fish, potato, quite a bit of vinegar, like acidity on there. So
I mean, as a British person, I'm going to have to absolutely love fish, potatoes with acidity. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Excited.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to kind of have to hold this and serve it for you. Forgive the weird cat tattoo. I can't get it off. My daughter put it on. Okay. So great. So is there a specific way that you would recommend to the chef, to the guests, to how you would?
I usually just say it's totally up to you.
Right.
People do ask that question.
Well, I think if we go tempura first, because we want to keep the crispiness. So I'm going to try a little bite, if you don't mind.
Please.
Okay. Cool. Great. Interested to see how the shiso leaf goes. Oh, sorry.
It's fine. I had one earlier.
Sorry, man.
I'll have a little nibble of chamashi. So it was just we just top it with preserved seps as well.
Yeah, it's nice because the tempura is so light that it cooks it and gives it that crispiness. But really, what you're tasting is all the lobster.
Yeah.
And the yuzu's not like crazy acidic. It's just the floralness.
It's floral, isn't it?
And actually, the chili in the yuzu mayonnaise
is nice. Yeah.
You don't really think, oh my god, that's too hot. No. It's just a little warmth and a bit of I think that's super balanced. So we just tried a bit of chamashi, didn't you? Yeah, go on then. Maybe I'll hold it off the pot. Cool. So these are what mushroom? Were they mushrooms?
Sep mushroom,
Seps,
yeah,
yes,
preserved. So last year we had like a load of sep trim, so we just slowly confit it in olive oil. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Keeps them.
Wow.
Keeps them for this time of year.
They taste delicious.
Yeah.
And it's great, like you say, if you've got lots of them, you can preserve them like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great way to keep them. They're really, really nice. And then on the economiyaki, we've got quite a lot of stuff going off with this one. Really, haven't we?
It's got quite a lot. So we've got a little bit of grated potato and sweet potato for it.
Okay. Ginger, you said earlier, I think.
Yeah, the kind of pickled ginger.
The red one?
The red ginger,
Benny sugar.
We chopped that up. There's also a little bit of obviously lobster meat in there as well.
Okay.
And then dashi, eggs, flour.
Cool. Oh, it's a nice little sort of bouncy.
Yeah, it's quite light. It's like a little muffin almost.
It's just quite tender inside. It's quite sort of soft.
Very soft, isn't it? Yeah.
The ginger's really nice, actually.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Wow. Yeah. And actually, the sesame comes through nicely. Have you ground the sesame down a bit?
Yeah, that's in the crumb.
Wow, amazing. I'm gonna have to have a bit more of this this set. Right, so we've got the pollock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got the
mousse
the
and
mousse
then the
potatoes.
potato scales on top.
Sure.
The little ball is a pomme dauphine, so choux pastry with potato folded through it.
Sure.
We also fold through some slow cooked leeks and chopped kombu. There's a little dot of Celtic mustard on top, which is made from soaked nori, Dijon mustard and a little bit of cumin seeds.
Great.
And then that's a disc of the braised kombu as well with seaweed powder and Alexanders and chives. And then the other piece is a little kind of wrapped potato batons in chives and then some crushed potatoes as well. The whole thing finished off with dashi beurre blanc split with from burnt chive oil.
Yeah, cool. So we got the kombus from Hokkaido and the noris from Ariake Sea in sort of south of Japan. So we've got from all over Japan, and then obviously some fantastic British produce as well. I'm concerned that we're going to get this cold, so I want to have a bit of a go. Should we just chop it and
go for it.
Chop it in half. Cool. I'm going in.
And you can try the pomme dauphine half.
Yeah.
Which I really like.
The mousse is delicious.
Yeah, it's a good way to use up the whole fish.
Wow. I'll try some of the batons as well.
So it's just kind of very umami, but also has a lightness to it, even though it has the butter-based sauce.
Yeah, because the dashi would give it some of the depth, but you also want to keep a bit of lightness.
Yeah,
obviously, if you're going for such a rich sauce. Okay, so do you mind if I just smash this?
Please do. I've eaten
You've had them before, right?
Yeah, of course.
I don't think we can share this one.
No.
I think we need to go in for it. Okay,
Pick it
so
up and
let's
eat
give it
it,
a throw. Wow, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I've got a mouthful of potato though. There's a little bit of heat from the mustard, isn't there, which is really nice. But with it being that Celtic mustard with the nori inside it, and obviously the combo on top, you get like an interesting sort of flavour of the sea, which obviously goes great with the
fish,
and potato, fish potato, acidity, sea,
classic,
amazing,
flavours.
That's fantastic, mate. I love that one.
Thank you.
I might have to eat this last bit though. Yeah, it's really tasty, isn't it? Cool.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's been great, man. Thanks for spending some time with us and all that. That's been good. Enjoyed it. We're here with Tom Aikens, in your flagship restaurant.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, in Belgravia, and we've just been speaking to head chef Seamus, and we've just tried some fantastic bits. Obviously, British food with some little nice Japanese flavours inside, but obviously that's inspired by, a lot of your food's inspired by like your life story and things you've done, experienced. And one thing that you're doing at the moment is you've just opened a couple of restaurants inside a big hotel in the heart of Tokyo, haven't you?
Yes, with the Edition Hotel. Yeah, I opened that last year in October, and have been traveling. I've been traveling to Tokyo from around June last year. So I did sort of at least probably five trips. And last time I was there was probably 6 years ago, I think, at least. And Tokyo, Japan is definitely on the bucket list for a chef. I think it's one of those iconic cities that you want to go to, because I think it's so far flung from, so culturally, historically, cooking from any other country, and that's why it's so fascinating and so interesting. And then when I was asked, by audition to come and do a restaurant at the hotel there, I obviously definitely said a yes. Not going to need too much of an arm twist on that one, because it's ingrained in the culture just how fanatical they are about everything, and particularly in food. Whether it's just basic street food or 3-star meal. They're so precise, they're so detailed. They're so passionate, they're so caring about everything. Particularly in food, and on the deliveries that we get, even in the hotel, like in deliveries you get in the UK, sometimes you get your box of, say for instance, veg. There is some care that's taken in terms of heavy stuff on the bottom, lighter stuff on the top, but occasionally you get some wilted lettuce or herbs or whatever, and there they just won't do it. They will not give you anything that is bad, because it's ingrained in their culture and their mentality to give you the very best, and that just makes the life for a chef so much more pleasant and easier. And obviously the produce is second to none. It's perfect every time you get it. And so we have two different propositions in the hotel. One is called the garden sort of terrace. So it's a terrace that's on the sort of 40th floor. And it's kind of like a bit of a secret garden, so it overlooks the whole of the Tokyo city, and then we have the Toranomon Tower directly in front, and we do sort of small plates of sort of snack food there, just with some some complimentary drinks, and then the restaurant is called the Jade Room, and we do a 4-course and a 6-course tasting menu there, and that's run by a chef, Richard Michelin, that used to work with me before, and he's been there as well since around sort of May last year, and he's absolutely loving it, and so I've been going backwards and forwards quite a bit. So I kind of submersed myself into a bit of Japanese everything, culture and food and crockery that you had.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's beautiful, and literally every time, probably Seamus said, every time I go over there, I either bring back some more kitchen equipment or more plates and more china.
Are you collecting suitcases because you go with one and you come back with 2?
Well, I take 2. I know, I take 2.
I take an empty one.
I always take an empty one.
Thinking ahead.
I always take an empty one now.
Good idea. Good idea. Yeah. So, would you say that the food in the J Room is influenced by here, or is the other way around? Do they cross over? Or is it completely different?
It's a crossover, because I'm definitely not going to say that I'm doing Japanese food, because there's no way that I'm going to be as good as there in the city. So basically, what we do is we basically do our style food here, using obviously Japanese produce, and then influences and techniques from Japan. So all the produce that we use is from different prefectures, and then because we're not doing too long a course, it means that we can also change it fairly regularly as well, which as you're probably aware of, the seasons that we have here, spring, summer, autumn, winter, you also then get mini seasons in between that as well, where you've got different produce coming in from shellfish and fish, and obviously fruit and vegetables as well.
And we were chatting off camera before about the sort of micro seasons.
Yeah.
I always get confused. It's 14 or 24 seasons, but it's a lot of seasons.
It's something insane.
Yeah.
I mean, you even get some herbs and stuff, and even it's the strawberry season now. And even some of the strawberry season, they'll only last for like 3 weeks or 2 weeks.
But I always think that's insane. A good example, because in England, you think, when do you have strawberries? The summer. Well, actually, in my garden, I grow strawberries, and they're not there all summer. They're really good for like 2 weeks.
They are, but we choose to not have them for 2 weeks and have them the whole year.
They don't taste as good though, do they?
They don't, but do people care? They don't, which is sad.
It is a bit sad, but I think, good thing about eating food in Japan, and obviously I think we're bringing that, not us, but like the British food scene is bringing that more into the forefront over here, is that eat it when it's good and celebrate the now, And I think, you know, like with the cherry blossom season, for example, and in Japan, part of that is the fact that it is quick, and they celebrate that it's there and enjoy it now.
Yeah.
And then you can enjoy now the next bit, the next bit, the next bit, and then just celebrate it for what it is. So you're not having to worry that you've not got strawberries now because you're celebrating what is now.
Yeah, I know it's true. But sadly, we don't think like that because we're too greedy. We want something always.
Yeah,
You know?
convenience
It's
culture, isn't it?
It's a supermarket culture, you know.
I think it comes from like American culture when we've sort of like got, you can have whatever you want whenever you want it.
Totally.
Half decaf, double
Availability all year
decaf, latte.
round, no matter what. You know, which is, as we know, a bit of a crying shame because then, you know, people don't educate themselves and they think that everything is available all year round. And
That's the thing. They think it's available. So strawberries are available, but not what a strawberry should be. And I mean, I didn't know this because I'm not a chef, but like I've eaten in a lot of nice restaurants and like I've loads of great conversations like where are we now, and there are so many different kinds of strawberry, just like there are so many different kinds of apple. But like when you go to the supermarket, it's just strawberries.
It's just strawberries, yeah.
Yeah, I had a Garrogette strawberries. They were fantastic.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
The really long ones, right? Yeah,
very sweet.
In Japan, they've got the white ones. They're really cool.
I mean, I remember the first time that I was given some strawberries in Japan, and this is you know first time I went there, and they literally presented them on a cushion almost because they were like so expensive, you know, like richly, like I mean they were almost didn't look real because they were like so perfect, you know, beautiful, unblemished skin, bright red color. And you could even, you know, you could smell them as they came literally towards you, you know, just that scent of strawberries was just like, blow your mind off. And the strawberries, like, they were literally like £3 each or something, cost to them, like.
But crazy. I think this comes like, you know, in the same way as Wagyu. You've got like A5 Wagyu sirloin, for example, it's crazy expensive. But, you know, there's A5 leg and there's A5 tail and then there's A4 and then there's B3. There's like, I think it's a grading thing. So like, yeah, there's a £3 strawberry, but there'll be a £2.70 strawberry and there'll be a £2.50 strawberry and there'll be a £2 strawberry. Yeah. But the one that is more expensive will be better. So it's like an honest grading system.
It is, yeah.
And they do that across a lot of things I've noticed. We do that with a nori, for example.
Because they're just honest people. You know?
Yeah, so people think Japan's really expensive. You can get expensive things there, but yeah, I think you get what you pay for.
Throughout my career, I've worked, you know, I mean, I've worked with a couple of chefs that, you know, they used some Japanese ingredients, not to the point that we have now because it wasn't available because I'm getting that old now, you know.
I think you and me about the same age.
No. So when I first chef I would say was using Japanese produce was Joel Robuchon when I worked with him in Paris in '92, and you know he was using some nori, he was using some kombu, very little things. Even Pierre Kaufman when I worked with him on Royal Hospital Road in '91, you know he was also using a little bit of stuff, not much. And then really, you know, for my own interest as a chef and just traveling as well and just seeing, you know, the influx of, you know, other ingredients coming into this country, other inspirations. And now that we know that the world is a much smaller place in terms of convenience of getting product to the UK, not that much, well, it's a little bit harder with Europe, you know, or us not being part of Europe, but hey-ho. But, you know, from getting produce from, you know, other parts of the world, it's allowed, you know, chefs to really test and develop, you know, their own creativity using other products as well.
Do you think this is another wave of sort of Japanese food or Japanese flavours getting into Britain? Because like you talked about Robuchon and was it Ferran Adria and people like that who sort of like started, I think maybe 20 years ago they were sort of like, this is amazing stuff that you can do with Japanese ingredients, but mixed in with sort of that European cooking, and then Bourdain sort of like promoting how much he loves Japan, and chefs are starting to think about this. Obviously, Heston did quite a lot of stuff with Japanese ingredients, and that. But then there's almost like it feels like over the last couple of years it's sort of going again.
Yeah.
And I think because you've got more reliable, like you say, produce coming into Japan, coming in from Japan to Britain more regularly, it's allowed people to sort of like look again at that. And I think, would you say that chefs would consider Japan as the other culinary capital of the world besides France, perhaps?
Yeah, totally. I think it's definitely one of those countries that the chefs know of and heard of and want to know more, want to understand more, and because in terms of, you know, the history of, as I said, the history of food and that has been culturally there historically for, centuries in terms of eating well. It's a fascinating place, and I think in terms of to learn as well, in terms of not only ingredients but technique and cooking and preparation and just when you go to a local market and you just see the smorgasbord of produce that is available is it's mind-blowing. You think in this country in Europe that we have an abundance of different fruit and vegetables and shellfish and meat, but when you go to Japan you just see that extra level is mind-blowing, and it really, I think, for the first time that you go there, it makes a massive stamp on your brain, or should do as a chef, in terms of opening up your eyes to a whole new world, which I think it is, and that again really, I guess, makes you reassess of what you're doing and almost makes you want to learn again, something different.
Do you find that this is my experience of going to Japan and travel in general really, is that you sort of look at your own life and your own country and your own cuisine from the outside, and then you go, and it allows you to sort of make some changes and make some positive moves. Like I don't particularly want to turn every restaurant in Britain into a Japanese restaurant, for example, but I see some amazing flavours, I see some amazing techniques, and I think, imagine if that was applied to British food. And I think that's kind of something that's been happening at the moment. And I speak to so many chefs, and I know I'm the guy who gets stuff from Japan, so they're probably more likely to say this to me, but everyone as a chef wants to go to Japan.
Yeah, they do.
They're all desperate to, but they're all too time poor, and it's maybe a little bit of a commitment for time wise, but to a man they all want to go. And but would you say that's something that a chef should spend a bit of time and money thinking, I'm going to invest in themselves?
I think for a chef that and this is the same for me in my career, because I knew, I'm talking, in the 90s, yeah? When were you born?
79.
Oh, 79, okay. All right, so you're not too far. I'm 70. But basically, as a chef, I just knew to have an advantage over everyone else, I needed to be taken out of my comfort zone, and that was staying in my own country and cooking in kitchens that all spoke English, and so I thought, where do I go? France, because that's obviously back then that was the place that. In France, where do you go? Paris. That's the city where the world of gastronomy was then. It was just like the top of the top. So I thought, okay, who do I want to go with? Joel Robuchon, of course, and that's why I just knew going somewhere like that culturally, just the methods, the approach to work, the systems, the routines, the methodology, the technique. I just knew all of those would really increase, my own standards of a chef, like dramatically, in terms of everything and so on. And now that has shifted definitely to places like Japan, because as a chef, you're like a sponge. You absorb everything that you see, that you touch, that you smell, that that you're part of. And I think if you want to get ahead of everyone else, selfishly, that's what you got to do. You got to take yourself out from your nice little comfort zone and put yourself a bit more extreme, a bit more difficult, a bit more different, and just take it all in. Yeah.
Love it.
Definitely.
Cool, man. Thanks for your time. Yeah,
Pleasure.
It's always good to have a chat.
No worries.
Cheers, dude.
Cheers, man.